on the screen?
Yes, I can see your slides.
Wonderful. So that's at least we're starting. So a picture of me from before is on the side. The picture of me currently now is here. So that's what I look like if anyone hasn't had the chance to see what I look like. So Progress, thank you for inviting me to do this talk today.
Thank you for joining.
We had a lovely discussion and you wanted to talk about can you have it all? So I want to play in this space a little bit today and we can have that discussion. It'd be great if we could have questions towards the end, which would help. But if there is something burning in between, Progress, if somebody raises their hand, I may not be able to see it because of my screen, but please do jump off mute and let's have a quick conversation. If it's right in the middle, if not, if you can wait to the end, that would be appreciated.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Yvette.
Right. So what you're going to be talking to me about today and what you'll be hearing from me is about what it means for you, this having it all, because it means lots of different things to different people. And I want to understand what this is for you. Also, I want to talk about finding your purpose, ways you can achieve career success. And I'm going to talk about some of the keys to happiness and success in life generally, because that's going to be important for that having it all. And also sharing some ways that you can thrive, because it's not just about existing, it is about thriving. So I'll just quickly introduce myself. So I'm Dr. Yvette Ankrah MBE. I am a neuro-linguistic programming master. I'm a performance coach. I'm also a therapist specializing in something called emotional freedom technique. What my work is mostly about is about how your behaviors and thoughts affect what your outcomes. So my work is focused on mindset, growth, helping people to thrive. That's the space that I operate in. I work with a lot of senior women. I do a lot of leadership training and coaching as well, and as well as mentoring. I've worked in a range of different industries and organizations and started off many years ago as a journalist before changing careers. My MBE was for supporting women in business, and that was in 2017. And in 2019, I got my PhD, which is based on my work on race, class, identity, and belonging. So I'm a sociologist, and that's my area of expertise. Coach of excellence as well. And I'm the director of Leading with Clarity, which is my corporate side of my business. And we go into organizations delivering training, coaching, mentoring, facilitation, team away days, all that kind of stuff for people. And so I have 9 associates, and we do that in a range of different organizations. So just a quick intro to me, what I do, who I am. And these are some of the publications I've spoken for or written for or appeared in. So I work with a wide range of industries and organizations. And I'm also a woman on a mission, because one of my passions is to help women avoid burnout. And this is quite personal when you're talking about having it all. If you're looking at having it all, it's how you do that in a way that's healthy, sustainable, and doesn't lead to burnout and overwhelm. And we have too many people in that space, and burnout and overwhelm has been part of my journey, and I wouldn't recommend it. So it's really important that I talk about these things and help people, and particularly young women, look at what's going on for their lives and how they move forward with it. So am I able to practice? Oh, great, I can. Not sure if I can paste in the chat, but what I wanted to do is get you to engage a little bit with me. So I am going to share. Okay. I want to share a link with you so that you can participate in a little exercise with me. So you can do this. So you can take the QR code or use the link here, because I want to know what it means for you. So if I stop this share, I might be able to share the other screen and you can do it there. So if you've got a chance to use that as a QR code and go to the slide. If not, give me one moment. I'm going to stop this share, and I want you to be able to have a look at the tab. Okay, so hopefully you can see this. So if you didn't get a chance to use the QR code, you can go to mentimeter.com and tap in this code 66575781 and just start typing in, what does having it all mean to you? And we'll see it appear on the screen in front of us. Wonderful. Okay, so we've got balance, happy, peace, ease, success, healthy, okay, happiness, more balance, wealth, yeah. Anything else? Is anything else you want to add? All right, thank you all. A bit more. So calm, peace, balance, ease, thriving, success. We have a very healthy group here, which is important. Okay, I'm going to stop the share now and then jump back into those slides. So thank you for sharing that with me, because it's really important that you know what having it all means to you, because you're going to see so many lots of particularly Instagram posts or various things on social media showing all these different ways of being. So it could be having the most amazing career, luxury holidays or time out, having great times with friends, having the family structure that you desire. Having it all could be all of those things, but being very clear what it means for you and what you want your life to look like is really important, because when you make those decisions, it impacts all the other choices you're going to make. And I wanted to bring this up because we can make these choices, but we need to understand some of the context within the place that we're making these decisions in. So particularly thinking about Black women, we have what Manchester University has labelled a concrete ceiling. It's not even a glass ceiling, which you might have heard with other women, but you've got a concrete ceiling, which makes it difficult for Black professional women to move forward in organisations. You've also got other surveys that have shown that women have left the workplace due to unfair treatment. They're not feeling empowered. So you've got some of these things going on in terms of that career journey, which is part of this when it comes to having it all. And it's important to understand some of this context. So when I'm talking about the things that I'm going to be talking about, it's not without thinking that actually there are other issues and challenges. And these challenges, for example, we've got systemic racism. You know, we cannot not think about that. It's important to understand that there are systems in place that can be detrimental to us. Gender discrimination is very real. Some of you may have heard of the gender pay gap. Often when that statistic is talked about, what they're talking about is white women. If you talk about Black women, the gender pay gap, several months after white women get pay parity to men is where women are coming in. So it means that you work longer in a year before you get paid the same amount as a white male. Stereotypes, being too loud, being aggressive, lazy, various stereotypes that we may have to challenge. And depending on where you are, you might find it challenging a lot of the time. So this is stuff that's happening maybe within workplaces and in organisations. But there's other challenges too. We have societal pressures. So society as a whole has certain expectations of women, and our own cultural backgrounds may mean that there's expectations of us, whether that is to become parents, whether that is to look after elders, whether that is to achieve certain things because your family would like you to do those things. So those things are also important to know. And then our beliefs and our mindset. So what do we believe about ourselves to be true? What are those things that we've told ourselves or other people have told us over the years that we embody and we believe is who we are? And that affects our mindset. So our mindset, a collection of our values, beliefs, and behaviors, and that shows up in how we are in given spaces, what happens to us, all of that. So it's important to understand that all of these things will be having an impact on how we feel about having it all and what we do about that and what that looks like for us and whether we believe we can have it all in the first place. So I wanted to share this quote by the late Dr. Maya Angelou. And I think this is really important because when we're looking at what we want to do and how we want to do it in life, thinking about what we choose to do and how we want to be going forward. Thinking about living rather than just earning to pay the bills. We all have to pay bills. But sometimes when you're just focused on let's just get through, just get by, we don't do things that actually bring us joy, that make us shine, that make us thrive, that make us want to get out of bed every day. And that's the difference between that making a living and making that life and living life on purpose. So I wanted to share this diagram. There's a book called Start With Why, and it's by Simon Sinek. I'm not sure if anyone's read it or heard about it. But so often we focus on the what. What is it we do? If you go anywhere, someone's going to ask you, what do you do? What is it you do? The what we do is nowhere near as important as the why. So when we start with why and start with why it's important for us to do the things we do, why is it that we'd like to do that job or have that role or move in the way we do, that is how we find and start to find our purpose. That is how we start to think about what is important for us internally. So when you start with the why it matters, why it's important, why it is you wish to do whatever it is you're going to do, you can then start to think about how you're going to do that. It could be that you may go for a very conventional career, you get a job in a particular firm, you work your way up, etc. It might be that you want to be an entrepreneur or you want to work in multiple ways. You can have a side gig and a day job. There's lots of different ways of the how. And then that helps you with the what. What is it you're going to do? What actions will you take? What will it look like on a day-to-day basis? It's important to start with the inside and work our way out. We often just think about the what and don't think about the other things. Hopefully this is making sense so far. So progress, I can't see the chat, unfortunately. So if there are questions or things that have come up, do let me know.
Yeah, there are no questions for now. I don't know why I can't see the chats, but yeah, there are no questions for now.
Okay, don't worry. So this diagram represents a Japanese concept called igaki, and I don't know if anyone's heard of it, but igaki is all about finding your purpose and how to live on purpose. So the reason I wanted to show you this diagram is because it helps you break down the things that you might do already, the things that you might want to do, the things that you've considered doing and think, oh, actually, I can't do that because it's not going to work for me. The sweet spot is obviously finding the thing that you love, being able to give back to the world that meets your strengths and you get paid for it. That's the sweet spot. But the reason I said earlier that you might have a day job and a side gig is because the side gig may be the thing that brings you joy, but it's not making you the kind of money that you need to quit the day job. So you keep the day job. But the day job may also be fulfilling you because it's where your strengths are and you may be interested in that way. But it may not be the mission, what you feel that you're here on this earth to do. So this just kind of helps you contextualize the idea of your purpose and what that looks like for you. So your purpose, according to the concept of igaki, is what gives your life meaning. So I wanted to give you a little exercise. And this is about you having some time to think about what these things look like for you. By starting to answer the question of how can we have it all, it does help. I think there is now something in the chat. All right, it's progress. I think we can see the chat. It's got hosts and panelists. I'm not sure if everyone else can. Oh, right, you can. Brilliant, wonderful. So what I'm going to ask you to do is spend a few minutes thinking about these, and I'll set a timer. So thinking about what does fulfillment look like for you? You know, in your everyday, what does it look like for you to be fulfilled? Also, what qualities do you want the outside world to see? And then what fills your cup of well-being? You may have heard about giving from an empty cup. You know, that is always a recipe for burnout. So what do you do to fill that cup? Is it time with friends? Is it time with family? Is it taking a walk? Is it reading a book? Is it exercise? What do you do that helps fill you? And then think about what comes easy to you. Now, often we dismiss some of these things, but those are often your key strengths. So the thing that people say, oh, I wish I could do that, or that you do without much effort at all, that, you know, doesn't take a lot of prep sometimes, but you just do it. You're able to show up and do it. Think about those things, because those are often your key strengths. And then think about, what does your heart say? You may not be regularly asking your heart what it's saying at all, but it's important to sometimes feel into yourself and say, do you know what? If I could do anything, go anywhere, what is it I'd like to be doing, and where would I like to be? What would I like to be engaged in? So what I'm going to do is give you a little chance to just think about that. And then just set this timer. So just 3 minutes thinking about those things. And the timer will just count down and fade. As you can see, it start fading. They're back on the screen, Latoya. Well, we're going to start this soul searching process here, Thelma, but then continue it outside. It's really important that you kind of give yourself time to think about these things. Okay, you've got about 30 more seconds. Okay, time's up. What time aside? So I'm not sure if you can come off mute. If not, could you pop in the chat some of the things that you thought about that you maybe have not had a chance to think about before?
Dr. Yvette, I think you can come on video now.
Mm-hmm.
I just did something, so hopefully.
Okay. So when I stop sharing my screen, I can play with that.
Okay.
So peace. So Tracy, what do you want to? Can you say a little bit more about this piece? Is that what your fulfillment looks like? Just peace? Anyone else? Sleep. You know what? Sleep is important. Okay, can't get audio to work. That's fine. So just drop it in the chat. Sleep is really important, and we don't do it properly at our peril. Fulfillment to me, being whole, never feel like I'm catching up, falling behind my life, well-balanced home life. It's like having it all. Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing. So yeah, qualities I want to reflect. I do try to every day, but I don't articulate themselves. Yeah, we should. Heart says to work less and spend more time with loved one. I want more than life can offer. Life can offer a load, so it's about maybe going for it. And yeah, it is easy to keep going and forget about our health. And that's, as I said, the recipe for burnout. And quality is justice and fairness. So we can do all this from where we are right now. We don't need to wait. And yeah, be in delusion of your dreams. Yeah, dream big. And the reason you do that is because when you start to have that and you start visualizing and you start thinking about those things, you start to actually see more opportunities and make these things happen. And then connecting empathy comes easily. Brilliant. It does not come easily to a lot of people. So the beautiful skills to show. Being successful as a woman and helping others to succeed by showing up. Brilliant. Brilliant. Definitely. Self-assurance. Yep. You know, when you walk into any room, you can hold up your head high. You can walk in and put all that queen energy in the space. Yeah. Heart says be wise. Yeah. So thank you very much for all of this. Thanks for all these shares. So let me skip along. So it is important to think about these things and to have some time to reflect on these for yourself. Please continue to kind of have these thoughts outside and these conversations. Keep it going when you're not here. I wanted to offer some tips as well, and I'm going to be doing that throughout this. So that's a picture of me a few years ago doing a mentoring session at an event. So when you start to get a bit clear on some of the things you want, you can start setting those goals and start aiming for it. So if it is that you want to have a successful career, what does a successful career look like? Start defining that. Is it that you wish to be promoted? Is it that you want to have a particular role? What's the clear goal? Start setting it, and then you're able to move forward with it. Mentoring and coaching. I have had mentors since I was 16 years old. They have been fundamental to my career. I regularly have coaching as a coach myself. I would say getting a good mentor is really important for success. Most people who are successful have had a mentor or have one currently. Reason being because a good mentor has already been there. They've done what you're doing. They can shortcut your journey. They can open doors. They can open up their address books. They can give really good sound advice because they've been on that journey. The role of a coach is slightly different, but the role of a coach is to hold that space, to be your accountable friend, to support you, to help you to think through those choices that you're going to make. So really important to look at who you can find that can support you in that role. Network, network, network. If the one thing I would have known when I was younger was the importance of networking, I would have started it much earlier than my 30s. I did not network when I was young. I didn't know how to. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know how to connect with people. And I didn't understand networking at all. If you can find spaces where you can connect to people who are like-minded, and even, to be honest, people who are not, but maybe have the skills and connections that you want or you need, find them, connect with them. And often people find networking daunting, scary. Not a lot of people like it. But if you think of it as, I want to meet people and have conversations, I want to connect, I want to listen to what they've got to say, I want to see how I can help them, that's networking. It's building your social capital. It's building your connections. That's what networking is about. And if you're in a room and it's busy and it's bold, find somebody friendly looking and have a conversation. The idea is to get whoever it is to have a one-to-one with you, probably outside of that space. If you are going to an event where you can know who's in the room, pick 2 or 3 people that you're planning to meet that night and then get to speak to them. But, go in with a plan, that always helps. Go with other people, that always helps. But use, your time to connect with others. It's really, really important. That, what do you want to be known for? Some of that you've had a think about already, but continue to think about what it is you'd like people to know about you when they mention your name in rooms when you're not there. So I talk a lot about self-care, burnout, compassionate leadership. Those are topics that I talk about every single time. So a lot of people know me for that. And that's been very deliberate, because that's the area that I want people to consider me for. Also working with women, that's something that people know about me. Know your skills and strengths. If I wanted you to write a list of all the things that you couldn't do, you might be able to fill pages. Knowing your skills and strengths, you might not be as quick to fill out those pages, but know what they are, because when you're working in that space, it makes life so much easier. When you're working with the skills, your strengths, and also you can see where your gaps are. What do you need to fill? What do you need to work on? I never say weaknesses, I always say areas for development. And it's always a choice whether you wish to develop them. You may not be great at coding or something like that, but it may not be something you really feel the need to do. And the last one, never be afraid to shine. Now, so often we may make ourselves small in spaces. And I say we as women, I say we as Black women as well, never kind of sometimes wanting to speak up because of fear of being shut down or ignored or not heard. This is not about being loud. It's not about being an extrovert. If you are, great, but it's not about that. This is about showcasing and letting people know that you've done something great, that you're proud of what you're doing in terms of work, that if you've been part of a team, that you've played your part and you've done something. Not to hide those things, because that's how you get overlooked for promotions. That's how people don't realize that you are maybe the force behind something. And it's definitely not about necessarily being the loudest or shouting in that way. It definitely is about, communicating your amazingness and making sure that people that need to know are aware of it. So I hope that's all making sense so far. So, progress, you said to me family versus career. And I'm saying family and career.
Wow.
And
that sounds much better, actually.
Yeah, right? And the reason I'm saying that is, let me see if I can put my video on, if it will let me. Let's see now. Yay! We're in red today. So the reason I'm talking about family and career is because they shouldn't be versus, they shouldn't be in opposition with each other. It's about, if you want to have a career of whatever guise it is, and how you want to have your family. Now, family can mean lots of different things. Family does not automatically mean children. So if you're thinking children, I'm going to talk about that, but it doesn't mean that it's about children. First question you need to ask yourself is, what does my family look like? What does it look like for me? You may not want to have children. I know, shock, horror, right? But you may not want to do that. Until I was about 27, I had no interest in having children whatsoever. I'm now a parent, but up to that point, no interest in children. I was great at being an auntie, godmother. I enjoyed that life. But I'm now a parent. But for most of my career, not interested. But if you do want to have a family, you need to think about what that looks like, how you're going to work within that structure. And in both of these spaces, family and career, there are some key things that I would suggest that you need to have a discussion about. So the first thing is about support. If you are going to be looking after elders, which often you get to a particular point. So in my generation, most of us have got young children and elderly parents. So we've got caring responsibilities on both sides, and it often falls to a woman to do that. And it's not whether it's fair or not, but we have something called, we have the mental load. So even if you have children and your partner's still available, you tend to be the primary caregiver. Not always, but if you are the primary caregiver, you'll be looking at sports days, school uniforms, packed lunches, all the other kind of stuff that you're going to be doing, and likely also organising their social life, etc. And that tends to happen. And it doesn't matter how successful you are in your career, that often will fall to you. And even if you have support or childcare, you may still have to brief the nanny or brief somebody. And so you're still managing it in some way. So decide what a family looks like for you, how you want that to happen. Your choice of partner will be incredibly important. So I'm just thinking progress when you put on LinkedIn about somebody saying that a woman can't choose both. He may not be the choice of partner you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because if you, and I'm using the word partner because I'm talking about partnership. I'm talking about there'll be times in both of you, if you're both people who are interested in having careers, there'll be times when they need to step forward and times when you need to step forward. It's never going to be equitable because you're going to have different career demands. And also, if you choose to become a parent and you take time out, what does that look like? How do you manage that situation? So communication is really crucial in whatever you do with this having it all, because you know you're doing that great presentation, you're there, but then you may have missed the school play.
Yeah.
So if your decision is, I will always be at the school play, it means you're not going to be somewhere else. So the whole point is being comfortable with those decisions and being in flow with those decisions. And a lot of people have talked about well balanced. Often when we try to strive for balance, what we're doing is trying to make things even and 50-50. It's not going to be like that. It's more about how can you be flexible? How can you honor certain boundaries? And how can you be comfortable with the ebb and flow that is life? So it may be that you attend that particular event, but you're not going to be at that event. And you've got to be okay with whatever decisions it is you make. And if you are with somebody and you're doing those decisions together, it might be, okay, you take the school play, I take sports day. Or it might be you take mum to the hospital and I deal with this. Yeah. There may be lots of other things that you have to think about. You may travel for a career. How do you balance that with what's going on at home? Well, support, communication, and making sure that you've got some plans in place. I do actually believe that it takes a village. And that, that statement, you think, oh, what do you mean? Actually, it does, because you create other families. So you create tight friendship groups, tight circles, who can sometimes support you more than your family can. Your family may be miles away and may not be able to help you with pick up and drop off. Your family may not be able to do those things, but your friends might. I found that connections with other mothers have really helped me. It's other mothers that have stepped in when I've needed the support. So having community, having a space that you can get support and advice from is crucial. And that is particularly crucial in your career. If where you work does not provide that for you, find it elsewhere in groups like this. So, progress, you're setting up something, you're creating a space, you're creating places for people. This is something that you might want to invest more time and energy in and nurture relationships with people, because the people that are here on the call with you may also be the people that help you get that next career move. They may be the person that opens the door. They may be the person that gives you that support and advice when you need it. Our community is incredibly important for our success. Finances. I want to mention this, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about finances. But it's important to have those conversations, because whatever your relationship dynamics are, money is going to be part of it. And not having clear communication about money can cause a lot of relationship issues. And that's across, when I say relationships, I don't just mean romantic, I'm talking about wider ones as well. So within the romantic relationships, if you're saying, okay, you're looking for a husband, or you've got one, or you're talking about how you sort the finances out, what happens if you need to stop work for a year, possibly 2 years, if you've got a child? What happens with the financial structure? What do? Do you have savings? Do you rely on other people for childcare? Do you does the other person earn enough? Or vice versa, if you're the high earner, will your partner stay at home? These are all conversations you need to have and be willing to have, and talking about money is important, and we don't do that. So if you're thinking about what does having it all look like, it's going to be a juggle, it's going to be a game, and it's going to be you having to decide what you're willing to do and not do. What you may think, actually, I don't want to miss any events. I don't want to miss anything, which might mean you take a back seat in some other stuff, particularly rising through the ranks at that time. You might say, I'm going to pause that for now and come back to it. So it is important that you make those decisions and start thinking about it early on, particularly if you don't have children yet, or if you're not in that space yet. Because we never know what the future holds. You might meet someone, they may already have children. You may be trying to have a child and it doesn't happen, or you might look at adoption. All of those things will impact our well-being, career, etc. And that support is also of your organisation that you work with. Do they have good maternity? Do they have employee benefit? Do they have counselling? Do they have coaching? Do they have flexible working? Those things help you then decide whether they're an employee that you want to engage with or not. So I hope that all makes sense with that. Building strong relationships. This starts with you. What's your relationship like with yourself? How do you care for yourself? How do you look after yourself? What are you like when it comes to the inner voice that's there? This I put for professional and personal, because once you know what you want, you know what you'll say yes to, you know what you say no to, you know how to put boundaries in place as well, and you know what you're going for. Communication is key in everything, and boundaries are necessary, they're not optional. And I say this because if we do not do that, people will treat us in certain ways, and that is not good for our well-being. So that boundary at work, that boundary at home. You can still be flexible. It might be, I will only work late 3 nights a week. So, but having those in place protects your time, protects your energy. Surrounding yourself with people that support and uplift you is so important. If you look at your network, you look at your circle, that says a lot about what you will achieve. And that's not being negative in terms of your current besties or whatever, but it's if you have people that are not supporting you, not championing you, showcasing you, they're not kind of praising you when you've done stuff, you might want to consider what's going on there. You want to be with people that help you strive and move forward. And it may take you a while to find those people that you connect with to have that. And friendships come and go over time, but having that group, and it may be that you find it through something like this, that you find that group and they become those people for you. But it's important to have those people in your world. And learning to say no. It's important that we honour ourselves and say yes to the things that support us, say yes to the things that help us, yes to our needs. Because sometimes when you're saying yes to other people all the time, you're not doing it from a place of wanting to do it. So it's important to be able to say no to others. And also this comes to asking for help and support and things. I've got this, you've got this sign here. Many people will assume if you are somebody who is able to do lots, shows up all the time, does for everybody else, they assume that you've got it. They assume that you don't need help. They assume that you don't need support. And it's only when you're drowning and not waving that they're not necessarily realizing that you need support as well. So it's important to ask for help and to communicate your needs to people. I mentioned money, and someone did put wealth there on that list. So thank you for someone who put wealth on the list. In order to have some of these things that you talk about, the success, the various things, money is important. Money comes as part of it. So not talking about money doesn't mean that, you know, there's issues with that, but there's something about your relationship with money that you need to understand as well. Are you a spender? Are you a saver? Do you shop when you're unhappy? Do you shop when you are happy? What do you do with money? How do you feel about it when it flows to you? Are you spending every single penny that comes in as soon as it comes in, right? The reason you need to understand your emotional relationship with money is because if you wish to have wealth and financial success, you need to understand how it works. If you're a millionaire, but you spend £1,001, you're broke, right? So understand how you spend money, how you relate to money, but also understand some of the how can I put it, the beliefs you may have about money. So it might be, as a family, we don't talk about money, or it might be money doesn't grow on trees, right? It might be, you know, that you've spent a lot of time being told things about people who have money. So people who have money are not nice people. So if you internalize some of those dialogues, you can then see what happens when you receive money and then what you do with the money. So it's really important to start with understanding your relationship with it. Get knowledgeable about finance. So many people do not know about investing, about pensions, about saving, about how to make money work better for you. There are so many books, podcasts, websites, free courses available that will help you get knowledgeable about finance. I think just this weekend, you've got the Black Girl Finance conference happening. I think tickets are sold out, but she has a book as well. You know, get knowledgeable about it. If you wish to have financial wealth, you need to understand money. Create an emergency fund. This is the fund that means that you can leave your job if you're unhappy. This is the fund that means you can leave your relationship if you are unhappy. This is the fund that means you can take time off to care for loved ones if you need to. Or if you think, you know what, I just want to take a break and go traveling. This is what enables you to do that. It doesn't have to be, I have to put thousands of pounds away tomorrow. It's starting small and putting a little bit away so you've got something in there for that rainy day. Or even just the washing machine has died and I need to replace it. It gives you choices. The other thing is, if you are an employee, ask for those pay rises. What happens is women often don't ask, so they don't get it. It's as simple as that. Ask for the pay rises. Have the dialogue, start talking about it. If you're in a place where there's banding and you're not anywhere near the top, ask to be moved up. Showcase why you should be moved up. And this also goes to negotiating salary when you get a job. If you see a salary that may be advertised, or if you work for lots of corporations don't even advertise the salary, they may suggest a number to you. Do not assume that that is the last number. Making that mistake can cost people tens of thousands of pounds because they're going to happily benchmark and then pay you lower. So you can negotiate the salary from the get-go. So never be afraid to ask for the things that you want. And I've said this before, but it is important. Have those open conversations. If you are living with people, if you're sharing space with them, you need to have conversations about money, about how you split the bills, about what's going on, and understanding, particularly if you do choose somebody that you're going to have a family with, what's their relationship like with money? If they are somebody that is constantly in debt, always going on that road of debt, you need to understand that, because once you tie yourself to that person, their debt's yours, right? You're liable if you get married to people, right? So you need to understand what that looks like and have those conversations and start planning your futures. So hopefully this is making sense so far. Just a couple of quick things, 2 things that will stop your success: stress and burnout. Now, I spoke about this at the beginning, and a lot of you have put peace and happiness, and I'm so glad that you are prioritizing these things in your world. Because stress, which is anything that puts pressure on us and how we react to it, and then burnout is what happens when we keep being stressed and don't manage that, are not spaces you want to be in. Now, we all need a bit of stress in our lives. It's important for us. It keeps us safe. When that car's speeding a bit faster, it gets us across that road. When that deadline is coming, it gets us to complete. But what you don't want is a situation where that stress is not switching off. Someone mentioned sleep. One of the first things that might go when you're in that space of stress is your sleep. You might either go to too much sleep or not enough. So insomnia. Our habits and behaviors change when we're constantly stressed. So it's important to get a handle on that. And I'm looking at the time and I'm conscious of that, but I do want to share a few bits with you before we conclude today. One of the quickest things you can do to change that stress feeling to one of calm is breathe. So I wanted to share a breathwork technique with you. So this is the 7-11 breath technique. It is the quickest way to change state. You can put the right hand over your heart, left hand on top of the right hand. If you're not comfortable doing that, feel free just to breathe. But we're going to do this 3 times. So I'll count the first one. So we breathe in for a count of 7. So in, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Breathe in for 7 again, your own time. When you're ready, out for 11. And then last one, in for 7. When you're ready, out for 11. And I'd just like you just to pop in the chat how that made you feel. Or unmute yourself and say how it made you feel. Calmer, very calm, yeah. Okay. So this is our default setting. And we probably do not feel this most of the time. But you can do this really easily. Just a bit of breath work can change your state. Yeah, relax. So now imagine making decisions from this. Imagine going into a meeting like this, feeling this way. Much more powerful, much more grounded. If you have younger people in your world that you want to teach this to, you teach them a 5-9 or a 4-8. They're breathing in for 4 or 5 and breathing out for 8 or 9. And if you are having anxiety, as progress, but they're very good for anxiety, you can do 3 rounds of 3 to really calm your system down. Because all you've done is turned the alarm system off in your system to say, I am safe, I am okay, I'm good. And just reset your system, dropped your blood pressure down, lowered your cortisol, all the things that your body does when it goes to fight or flight when you're stressed. So it's a good one for you to use daily. Self-care tips. It sounds like we've got a group here that is good on the self-care, because you're talking about the things you want to do, the things how you want to look after yourself, and I'm so pleased to see that. Saying here, it starts within. Connect with your mind and body. Start to listen to yourself. We all know what it feels like when we're stressed. Where is it in your body? Where are you noticing it? What's going on? What are the things you're saying to yourself? Be aware. Know that you have choices. The whole way through, I've talked about the different choices you can have. You may not like the choices sometimes. I'm going to say that truly, but you do have choices of how you move in the world. Setting those boundaries, using your breath, and practicing gratitude. I want to share another one with you. This is something I do every single day. Every day, no matter what has happened, I find 3 things to be grateful for. Write them by hand in a notebook if you can. If not, there's apps. I think I'm on day 1,500 or something of my streak of continuous gratitude. Start by doing it for 7 days. And if you can do a 7-day streak, great, and then go on. 21, then go on for 90 days. I want you to start creating habits here of gratitude. If you break the 7 days, start again and then do a streak. This actually changes how your brain works. By practicing gratitude, what you find is it starts to change your perspective. It helps you with how you just see the world, make decisions. And also, if you want more of things in your life, you find you focus more on them by thinking of the things that you already have. It sounds almost counterintuitive, but when you are focusing on the good in your life, more of it happens because you're seeing it more. You're noticing it more. You're noticing opportunities more. You're more likely to go for those things that you wouldn't have gone for before. So giving thanks is one things I would say. If you do nothing else, do this every day. And I realize there are 2, but all of these things that I'm talking about help you build resilience. We are talking about so many spaces and structures that were not designed for us, and we have to be resilient within them. By looking after ourselves, by getting support, by thinking about how we want to live our lives and creating positive inner voices for ourselves, we maintain our self-belief, which we need in the spaces that we find ourselves in. Particularly if you're going into the corporate world, you're going to need this even more. So it's important that how you look after yourself, care for yourself, all of those things, how you fill that cup, the people that you surround yourself with, all of that helps you build your resilience. So to conclude, because I know we started a little bit late, so hopefully you've got time for a little bit of questions. Having it all and what it means for you. Having it all is about choosing what you want from life and being flexible with it all, knowing that you may be 50% in one or 50% in another. You're never going to be 100% in all at all times. It's not going to happen without you burning out. Knowing what your purpose is and starting to live it and starting to do things that help you stay on purpose. I've shared some hints and tips that can help you with work, personal, and I've given you 2 key tools that you can use right now that will help you on your journey. So over to you, Progress.
Yay, thank you very much, Dr. Yvette. That was a very powerful presentation and a very powerful insights that you've shared with us today. So I'm really grateful. I want to also apologize for the technical issues that we had initially. Hopefully the subsequent sessions, it doesn't happen because I've kind of learned how to get acquainted with the interface now. But thank you so much. So I'm going to open the chat is open actually to questions and whatever suggestions or whatever you want to add. You can either pop it up in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and speak. I have made it easy for people to unmute themselves now.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I think I might go first if we don't have any yet.
Well, there's a question about the slides. I think you're recording it, so I think you'll get the recording rather than the slides. Yeah.
You're gonna get the recording. So I will put the recording on a channel, on my YouTube channel, or on a video platform where you can access it. But yeah, I wanna go first with the question. I think I really enjoyed all the aspects that you spoke about purpose, about family and career. I like that you changed it to family and career instead of family versus career, because the reason why I presented the topic that way, family versus career, is because most times as women, I feel like we are put in a situation where we are asked to choose between family versus career. So I was trying to kind of understand how possible it is, for as a woman to be able to have that balance, have a balanced life with your family and also have a thriving career as well. But I'm glad that you were able to unpack it and just explain it to us at that level. So my question would be, it's about purpose. So how do you get to that point where you are able to decipher that this is what you want to do with your life? Because as young people, as a teenager, even as someone in your mid-20s or 30s, we tend to struggle with this question. Sometimes you might have different talents or different skills, but like, how do you know what you are created to do in life? Because I feel like that is what your purpose is.
Yeah, and that's why I asked you to kind of think about some of those questions, because it is about exploring within yourself, where are my strengths, where are my skills, what brings me joy, what do I love to do, more than anything. If I, it's almost like that, if I gave you £1 million, what would you want to do? And it's not just the lying on the beach part of it, it's actually what would I want to do every day if I could have the choice to do it. It's starting to think like that. And the whole thing is that you might not find it right now. I would say that when I started my career, I thought my purpose was to be a journalist. That's what I thought my purpose was. But actually, the thread that's always been in my career is helping and supporting people. That's the thread. And so now I would say that I'm doing exactly what I'm here to do, which is that supporting people on their journeys, helping people find their brilliance. That's what I do on a daily basis. But it's taking a while. I'm in my mid-40s. So that's taking a while to get there. So it's not necessarily going to be overnight, but you're going to be taking those steps. And I can see there's some questions in the chat as well.
Yeah. So I guess purpose is ever changing as you go on in life.
Yeah, it can evolve. And also some things have more meaning for you at different stages of your life.
Yeah.
So
there's a question from Tracy. She says, there was a book mentioned about what you do versus why you do what you do.
It's called Start With Why, and it's by Simon Sinek.
Okay.
So Start With Why is the book.
Start With Why.
Yeah.
Okay. And Beverly says, any recommendations for pension advice?
I'm not a financial advisor, but I would recommend getting one. Speak to somebody who does that. And, the only thing I would say is start as early as you can. That's the one thing that you can get from the government and start the pension as early as you can.
Yeah, Sarah is also asking if you do offer one-to-one. Of course, I think she does.
I do.
So yes. Yes. So the email is right on your screen. You can drop her an email. Yeah. So there's a question from Ahize Favor. Should the family be a major consideration before picking a career choice?
So in terms of, is this whether you have kids or not? Actually, no. Choose your career and then get your support. If you're definitely going to have support in place, that should be a consideration. I know that when I was looking to start my family, I changed what I was doing simply because I knew I wouldn't have the support in place because I was traveling a lot and I didn't have the family support or financial support to mean that I would have a nanny, for example, at that time. So I made a choice to not have a job that meant I was traveling all the time. But funny enough, I'm about to start doing a lot more traveling now because my son's older. But it is about what support you have in place to enable you to do what you're doing. People make all different decisions, whether they have children stay with family members, other people do things. So decide if you're passionate about something, look at how that can work and what support can be put in place to make it happen.
Another question I'd like to ask is, how do you build like a mindset of resilience? So in a space where I think you mentioned this, where, you know, as women, we often get shut down or spoken over, how do you like push yourself, you know, in a way that you do not appear too audacious or too arrogant or too ambitious? Like, how do you push yourself to that space where you can speak up?
So is there a problem being too ambitious? Why is that a problem? So that's the first thing. So just hearing that, it's where there seems to be a problem with being ambitious or being audacious. Why should you not be audacious? Why should you not be bold? Why should you not be ambitious? So that's the first thinking, because that talks about belief and mindset about whether you should be those things. That's part one. Part two, if you're invited to any meeting, Latoya wants to unmute in a moment. So if you're invited to any meeting, why are you there? What's your purpose for being at that meeting? Usually because you've got some expertise or knowledge that you should share. So use your voice. Don't be afraid to use your voice. If you're in any room, you're there because you've got some expertise. You're there because you're qualified in some way to be in that space. So remind yourself of that and speak. Because sometimes people need to hear you and they're going to hear something that somebody else has maybe wanted to say and hasn't. Or you speak for a group that no one's bothered to think about. So your voice matters.
Yeah. I guess it's that change of mindset, how you're able to kind of look at yourself differently, and just like go for it, basically.
Yeah, it starts with the inner self-talk and starting to recognize. That's why I said talking about your skills, your strengths. What have you done? Building almost a portfolio of the things that you have done so that you can use those to say, actually, do you know what? That's why I'm here.
People often say, let your work speak for itself. You shouldn't be blowing your own trumpet sometimes. And that can be challenging. Like, how do you balance blowing your trumpet and not coming across as showing off, maybe?
Okay, I'll give an example of this. So I was running a training program, and one of the women there asked similar questions. She was very introverted and very quiet, but her work was not getting noticed. So she had a work newsletter. So what she does is make sure that every single time she's done an event, she's spoken at something, it goes in the newsletter so that her colleagues are seeing the actions that she's taking. There's ways of doing it. You know, it is about talking about the progress you're making, talking about the impact you have made. As I said, it's not about standing on the table and shouting. It is about, you know, making sure that people are hearing that you've been part of this and that you're not just sitting in a corner somewhere. When you say you let your work speak for yourself, when women do this, you get overlooked for promotion, you become invisible.
Yeah.
And you get people who are very mediocre, who are great, but they're shouting. That's why they're getting the promotion. So speak, be heard. And, you know, actually, I was part of this project. So I'm really proud of my part to play in this, and this is what I did. So really in doing that. Oh, thanks, Beverly. And
yeah,
I think Latoya had a question as well that she wanted.
Yes, I was gonna say, please, you can unmute and ask your question, Latoya.
Excellent, thank you. So I think my problem is more relating to like understanding how to have a good work-life balance since the pandemic. So I live in London, and before the pandemic, I had all this stamina to do, I don't know, study and going to work and then having a social life. And since the pandemic, I'm having a difficulty in understanding what the correct balance is. Like, especially taking into consideration that my stamina levels are lower as a result of all the measures. And being in London as well, even if you slow, but there's almost a belief that you should always be doing something, so it's difficult to get out of that whole rat race mindset, and that's almost doing too much at work and too much in your social life. How do you reduce that to, or find the right level? One of my colleagues said that most people should be working at 100% all the time, because then they burn out, which is completely valid, and it's something I hadn't considered. So how do you fix this, or find it, or work towards finding the balance? Okay, so are you going into the office all the time, or are you at home sometimes? I'm hybrid working. I'm lucky enough as well to live about 20 minutes from where I work. Okay. All right. So when you're at home, start to create yourself almost like a timetable. Yeah. So also, where do you work when you're at home? Do you have a home office, or do you work in another room or kitchen table? Where do you work? In sitting room. Okay. Right. What you can do is create zones in your house, or zone it in a way. So for example, if you're in a part of your living room that you're using for work, you don't want to have your social there. So you might want to cover up your computer, move it away, block off the space, turn the chair around in a different direction when you're working, turn it back when you're relaxing, because you need to give yourself signals that you'll stop working. Okay. So at home, creating a space that allows you to still have your home is important. Same with, so when you're at work as well, if you have a particular time that you clock off, try to be consistent with the time that you finish. We know that there's other activities that may sometimes go a little bit later, but, try to, as often as possible, say, I finish at 5:30 or 6 o'clock, and then I'm done, and I'm switching off from work. If you have work on devices, either have a work device or switch off those notifications outside of those hours. I'm not sure what you do, so depending on that, you may not have some flexibility, but where you can, break away and create time for you and time for work. And in terms of socializing, it is important to see our friends, but it is also important to have time so you can recharge. So if there's lots of demands on you, and I know this has happened particularly since the pandemic, where there's an expectation that we must get back to normal and must be out and about all the time. If you're not ready to do that, communicate that. Let your friends know that, you're not wanting to go out every evening or as regularly as they would like. And then when you're at home, find things that support your well-being. So whether it's a quieter time with maybe one or two friends in your home, if that's better, or whether it's reading, or spending some time watching something that you'd like to catch up with, whatever it is, find ways that allow you to recharge so that you're ready to go back to the other things. Because otherwise sounds like you're just depleted and continue to deplete yourself. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? That's brilliant. Thank you. You're welcome. So we've probably got time for maybe one more question.
Yes, one more question. If there is no more question, I'm just going to ask the last question, and it is about networking. Yep. I personally, as an introvert, find networking very, very draining, very exhausting. So I guess my question is, how would you advise that one, whether an introvert or an extrovert, be able to navigate networking, meeting people, reaching out to people, and just growing your network? As they say, your network is your net worth.
Yes, indeed.
But yeah, how can we do that?
First of all, forgetting the word networking. I know we use it, but sometimes as soon as we say that, especially if we don't like it, it makes us feel stressed. It provides a kind of, I don't really want to do that. If I said to you, we've networked, we had a conversation, didn't we? And that's all we did. We had a conversation. So it's, who do I want to have conversations with? Who do I want in my circle? Who do I want to get to know a little better? It's about building relationships. So think of it as building relationships that help start to change the thought pattern around the word networking. So how do we build relationships? Who do we want to build them with? It might be, again, avoiding big events. I don't like big events. A lot of people don't realize it, but I am an introvert. I do not like spending time with lots and lots of people, because I do find it draining. After I've given a talk or delivered training, I now need time to decompress, because that's how my body is. And I'm very aware of that. So if I go to an event, it's okay, what's my purpose for going? What is it I'm going to get out of this? Why do I need to be there? So I have a purpose, I have a focus. It's always great, as I said, if you can meet somebody there or have somebody that you go with, so it just takes the edge off a little bit. And then where you can have those meetings where you can see the list of attendees or whatever, you see their name badges, you're like, actually, I'd love to have a conversation with you, and do that. The other thing is, you're there to listen. You want to hear what they have to say. You want to engage in active listening. You want to see, how can I add value to this person? What can I do? Rather than what am I here for? How can I add value to this person? That's how you'll quickly build rapport, quickly build connection, and start to have people who remember you later on. I had a woman I met at an event more than 5 years ago. We had half an hour together. 5 years later, she contacted me and sent work my way. All right, because we spent that time connecting at that event, and she's remembered me since. So thinking about it in that way, and if you can have smaller things where it might be an event, but there's a smaller breakout room or it's something like that, speak to the person next to you. Start having those, getting comfortable with smaller interactions, because the idea with any networking is, as I said, to go on and develop that relationship. Ideally, you want to meet someone somewhere and say, do you know what, can we have coffee, Zoom or in person? Can we have this discussion? I'd really love to hear more about, you told me this, and I might have someone I can connect you to. Can we do that? That's how you do it, and make it yourself feel comfortable with it. And you said about net worth, follow up with people. If you don't follow up, you'll leave. Imagine if I gave you £50 every time you followed up with somebody, £100 every time you followed up with them, because people can be worth a lot when you follow them up.
Yeah.
So that's the part of it. But it is, do it in a way that makes you comfortable. Find the spaces. You might be happier with doing it online and then going into a small breakout room than rather being in a big room with people. That is the one thing the pandemic has allowed us to do, is work in different ways, and ways that may suit our personalities better.
Yeah, that's powerful. Thank you very much. Just to add to that, one thing that I do when I go for networking events, I just use this to manage my anxiety. It is go with the mindset of speaking to one person, just one person, because when you hear networking, you feel like, you're networking with a lot of people, the whole people in the room. But for me, if I'm able to speak to one person, I'm done. So
then I would just say, start saying, who am I building a relationship with today? Just say, who am I building a relationship with today? That's it. Don't use the word network, because if that's a trigger, and it is a trigger for people, start changing the language and changing your thoughts around it. And it makes it more of a positive experience for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. I guess we have come to the end of today's session. I really loved it. Personally, I learned a lot, and I'm sure that the people who have joined today were able to take one or two things, and that is my goal for certain of these events, to mark International Women's Month. And I really appreciate you for your time, for generously sharing all your knowledge and insights and your personal experiences, Dr. Yvette. I'm really grateful for that. And I am looking forward to more events, more sessions, and collaborative working in the future.
Definitely happy to help, and I can see all the beautiful faces of the people that you're going to be speaking to as well. And
please feel free to contact Dr. Yvette if you have like one-to-one needs, or you need further clarification on whatever she's spoken on. Please just shoot her an email, or you can reach out to her on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, so welcome to, and I know some of the speakers that are coming on, and highly recommend them. They're amazing women, and you will get a lot from them too. So thank you so much, Progress, and thank you all. And I'm just grateful that you spent some time with me today, and glad that you've got something from it. So thank you.
Thank you. So the next session would be on the 17th, which is next Friday, and we are going to be talking about relationships, red flags to look out for in relationship, domestic abuse, narcissistic behavior, how to spot that as well. And also, so we have 2 speakers next Friday. We're going to also be talking about how to use your skills to create different sources of income for yourself.
Yeah.
It promises to be very powerful. It is 17 from 2:30 to 4 p.m. So if you haven't registered, let me see if I can paste the link here. I'm gonna let Dr. Yvette exit if she has to. But if you need to register for the event, please do. I'm gonna share the link now. But thank you so much once again, Dr. Yvette.
Thank you. I'm going to jump out now. I've got another meeting. So thank you all, and have a good rest of the day and a lovely weekend. Bye.
Thank you. Let me just quickly bring out the link. Just need to copy it. Okay. Okay, my computer is freezing for some reason. Go back. Interesting. But yeah, if you still have the link with which you register for this event, you'll be able to find the other events on that link as well. So if you have the link, please use it to register. I don't know, for some reason I can't operate my computer right now. It doesn't seem to be letting me copy the link. But thank you very much, guys. Thank you so much for coming. I will see you next Friday in the other session. Thank you and have a good day. Stop recording.